to a number of others are stacking up like cordwood on the doorstep of the United States Senate. This contention of a do-nothing Congress, I will stand up for the House that I serve in. We've passed legislation, many with bipartisan support, and it doesn't make the news. As you all know, whenever there's headbutting, that's what makes the news. When you do get along, Congressman Perlmutter and I have co-sponsored legislation together called the CAMS Act, Capital Access to Main Street, another issue greatly impacting our small businesses' ability to be able to operate, to be able to create new jobs, and to be able to be sustainable as we move forward. They are under Dodd-Frank. Dodd-Frank is requiring, I can point to the local bank here because I visited with them, saying that they wanted to be able to make loans, but because of Dodd-Frank, they couldn't. They weren't allowed to be bankers. Let's open up that door. The bill that Perlmutter and I put forward allow banks to be able to look at a 7-year window of profit and loss statements and balance sheets, to be able to make real choices, to be able to get the economy moving, to be able to create those lines of credit so that we can get this economy moving and get our people truly back to work. And then last thing I'd like to touch on and then open it up for questions is, this is what I have heard. Holding 40 plus now town hall meetings throughout the 3rd, in addition to a host of other meetings with individual groups and chambers of commerce's, city councils, county commissioners groups as well. It is the regulatory environment that we are seeing come out of Washington, D.C. The ever-moving bar that no business is able to keep up with. Many of you may be like me. I haven't been a career politician. I spent the last 30 years of my life till I got into this working for a living. And we were out always trying to grow our business, to make sure that our people had a job, and hopefully to be able to prosper so we could hire more people and to be able to expand our business, to be able to do that. But then you find out in business that there's always another form. There is a new regulation to be able to comply with, and I definitely want to underscore this particular point. When we are talking about this, there are those, for the purposes of trying to be able to create controversy, would say, well, you don't want any regulations. Not true. I always like to give the example, a couple of you may have heard it this morning when we started out our day here. In New York City, when we started building cars in this country, there were only 2 automobiles in New York, and they ran into each other. So a stoplight is not a bad idea. We've got to have common sense brought back into it. One bill that we did pass that will help achieve part of this is the REINS Act, to make sure that we're getting Congress re-engaged back into that process, because Congress will pass a piece of legislation, then the blanks are filled in underneath by the bureaucracy. Does the bureaucracy, when they fill that in, meet the legislative intent? Congress currently doesn't even give itself the authority to be able to go back in and really be able to address that. Here in Colorado we do. It's called sunset legislation. So we are very supportive, and the REINS Act is a first step to that end, to re-engage Congress back into that process. Because here's the big problem. Once a new rule goes into place, if you want to change it, it takes the proverbial act of Congress to undo a rule. And why is that a problem? Let me give you an example that we were able to effect through our office, through the 3rd Congressional District. Some of you may have heard about this. I sit on natural resources, on ag, on small business. I chair a subcommittee in small business that oversees energy, ag, and trade. We heard that the Department of Labor was going to make a new requirement when it came to children being able to work on the family farm. Right. And effectively what that was going to do was, you couldn't, if you were a child, what they label as a child, you could not work on the family farm or ranch on a haystack that was above 6 feet. You weren't able to drive a motorized vehicle. You were not able to handle a mature animal. Well, we're going to be having the state fair. There's going to be a lot of kids out there with a mature animal that they have raised. But you aren't going to be able to handle that if those new regs have gone through. I called a hearing through my subcommittee. Typically when you call a hearing, you receive the testimony a few days before. We didn't receive the testimony. The day before my hearing, they pulled the rule back and said, well, we're going to re-examine this. We held the hearing anyway. And as a result, they pulled that rule back. And you know you've got a real problem when you have the member of the Thanks a lot. Been chatting a lot here, so. You know you've got a real problem when you have the Department of Labor representative in and you have to explain what bucket bales means. You've got to be able to, I just shared part of my life experience growing up. My dad made sure that I had a full-time, summertime job from the time I was 12 years old and on. And Dustin, we were just visiting about that. I was paid 85 cents an hour. Probably wasn't worth it, but that's what I got. And we went out and bucked bales. I moved pipeline through hay fields, and I drove an old Ford tractor from field to field to be able to move those pipelines. And I lived to tell the tale. We need in the farm and ranch community that ability to learn by doing. Well, the good news is John Thune also picked up this mantra and started carrying it. The administration recently came out and announced that they were pulling the rule and they would not pursue it for the balance of the year. The caveat there is the balance of the year. They will be back. So we have to be vigilant on the rules and on the regulations. We need to have Congress have an ability to be able to get in and actually address these in multiple hearings, be it on ag, natural resources, small business. I've challenged the heads of these departments, including Timothy Geithner, before they get ready to come forward with rules, would they be willing to bring them back to the authoritative committee for review? They don't want to give up that power. Guess what? They weren't elected. That should be in the province of Congress. We are going to continue to push for that. Because when we look at regulations, when we look at access to capital, when we look at job opportunities in this country, we are seeing a bottleneck that is keeping us from prosperity. And in Pueblo, Colorado, in Westcliff, Colorado, just down in Walsenburg, Del Norte, Alamosa, Monte Vista, Center, La Jara, we can go throughout the entire 3rd Congressional District. I'm in communities right now looking at people that want to be able to have opportunity to be able to look positively toward the future. We're willing to work hard to do that. We need to get our members of the Senate to help us actually achieve that goal. And I believe if we follow some of these paths, we can actually get this economy moving and create that opportunity to be able to guarantee for our children, for our grandchildren, what many of us grew up with. And that was the inherent belief that the American dream was an American birthright. And that's of opportunity. So, again, thank you all for taking the time to be able to be here, and I'll invite your questions.